Good morning, everybody, and thank you for your attendance. This is a contribution, particularly from LionHeart, the body that supports the RICS professionals and their families. And I would like to welcome Juliet Smithson, who is the head of operations, who will make the presentation to us this morning. But I'd also like to thank Michelle Smyth from the Society, who has set up this Zoom, which we seem to find ourselves dealing with now all the time, all of a sudden, and she's been very helpful in linking me into it. And of course, I'd like to thank Patrick King as well from the Society, who has been involved in organising the assistance for members and where they can. And you will get various pieces of information from Juliet, but in particularly, we want to note the ADARE Human Resources body who are assisting us, and an email address will be given for them sometime during the presentation, and you might make a note of that because they're more technically involved and aware of what's needed and helpful to members. So thank you very much. And Juliet, if you'd like to come in.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you to the SCSI team for inviting me to speak on behalf of the only charity that exists solely to support RICS and SCSI professionals and their families. I'd just like to take a few minutes just to share something about how LionHeart is supporting Chartered Surveyors, especially in these unprecedented times. A little bit about how we're funded, how you can help, and how you can access our help and how you can find out more. I'd also take this opportunity to share some tips on looking after yourself during this crisis, and also on working from home, which might be a new thing for some of us. In a nutshell, LionHeart has offered flexible personal support to Chartered Surveyors and their families for over 130 years. Our services are available to all members and their life partners, and our services are free with no expectation of being paid back for anything. They're available whether you've ever given us a donation or not. It's important to know that we're not an insurance scheme, so you don't need to have paid in to take advantage of our services. We help with all of life's challenges. Obviously, the big one right now is coronavirus. Please be reassured that LionHeart is working hard to offer our support to the profession, and we're constantly reviewing our support services and responding flexibly to people's circumstances. I will talk more about that in a moment. And I should say, if you have questions, do please drop them into the Q&A section, and we'll pick some up at the end. But for many, the normal challenges of life haven't gone away, although we're all dealing with this pandemic. Perhaps fears about medical tests, and particularly at the moment we're hearing concerns about postponed surgery as our health services battle this virus. Many are struggling to provide care for elderly parents, sometimes at a distance, while also juggling childcare while schools are closed. We've heard of partners being laid off and urgently needing to find jobs. And also something else we deal with quite commonly is loss and people's grief around bereavement. And also we're hearing at the moment about people who are actually fearing losing someone before they can see them. We're all living very separate lives at the moment, and people are phoning us for support because they fear that someone they love will be gone before they see them again. There are some things that LionHeart can help with. Our financial support is probably the primary thing that people need from us right now. Our ongoing grants are still open for business, still accepting applications. Very early on in the crisis, we held an emergency board meeting so that we could keep funds flowing into this grant programme, and we're already paying out surveyors. We've relaxed our criteria. We've also relaxed the requirements for evidence of financial loss, understanding that those won't be available readily right now. Grants are being approved in 3-month blocks so that we can get funds flowing to people and then assess the impact as the crisis develops. Alongside this, we're also maintaining our emergency grants, which operate for things like fire, flooding, and other natural disasters. because we find that even in a pandemic, life is happening, and those things are still going on. Our counselling services are run by BACP accredited counsellors, and we also offer a CBT therapy service. Currently, we have a very low waiting list, but again, responding to the current crisis, we're switching to offering more message-based counselling where it's appropriate, understanding that people who normally would have received counselling via Zoom or on by Teams or on the phone are struggling with privacy right now, and everyone living in under the same roof and no escape. So we're offering that as an extra service, and we're monitoring the demand for that service. Currently, we still don't have much of a waiting list, and we have extra resources on standby that we can bring in if we need to. We're also ramping up our back to work support. We are getting news of redundancies and people needing to find alternative work. So we're offering support with LinkedIn, CVs, interviews, and we do have a team of globally recognised outplacement consultants available to call on for those who have lost their jobs. And do remember that we are here for your partners as well. So it's not just surveyors that we can help life partners too. And alongside, as Barry said, the brilliant SCSI HR helpline run by Adair, we are also able to offer a free 1-hour appointment on legal aspects, and we have had people taking those up to ask questions about contract law, about employment, and other fields, and even family and law. All of our workshops have moved online. We're offering a range of subjects from mental health to menopause, and returning to work after maternity leave to sleep. We're commissioning new webinars on stress and well-being and personal effectiveness, as members are particularly asking for those. And we're trialling new timings for these, picking up on new working patterns while people aren't commuting. These can all be booked on the events page of the LionHeart website, which I'll show you later. And finally, coaching. Our coaching service is still running. We are taking calls on that too. I think the virus is making people think about ways that they want to develop or about new possibilities. And we can help with exploring those new opportunities or perhaps life changes that you want to make. None of these are, all of these services are put together in a bespoke package of support for each and every person who needs our help. No one's ever just a number to us, and we'll respond with an individual package of support to everyone who calls us. And remember that these services are all free and available to you, no matter whether you've supported us in the past or not. As an example of how all this fits together, I'd just like to tell you a case story. It's not a COVID case story. It's about a guy called Spencer. That's not his real name, but this is his story. So about 4 years ago, Spencer left for work one morning, and he returned home 7 months later because on his way home he was involved in a road traffic accident, and he sustained life-changing injuries. As news spread about his accident around his office, a colleague suggested that his wife call us to see what we could do. Initially, we helped with the costs of living in hospital for his wife, as she sat by his bedside willing him to survive and trying quite hard not to think about what happened if he didn't. The costs of food and parking and phone calls all mount up when you're in hospital, and when you're having to run a home as well. As his rehab continued, his sick pay ran out. We began to give the family a monthly grant to help with the mortgage and some of the bills. Eventually, it became clear that he wouldn't be able to return to the career he loved. So we paid for a career coach to work with him to identify what he could do and what careers might now be open to him. Having identified an area of work that he could do, we then paid for some retraining and continued to pay a grant to the family to cover bills until suitable work was found. We also offered counselling to Spencer and his wife to help them adjust to a very new and different reality. Not all our cases are as complex. Sometimes our help is a small grant to someone who's been affected by a fire or some other domestic emergency. Many of these inquiries also benefit from our counselling services. We're currently helping someone who lost their home in a fire just before Christmas. The insurance company replaced their belongings, but they don't support with processing the emotional toll of fleeing your home, holding your children in your arms through suffocating thick black smoke. The LionHeart counsellors do help with that. Sometimes it's something more creative. Recently, we've paid for a talking book subscription for a surveyor losing his sight. And also recently, we visited a surveyor to help him, a retired, very elderly surveyor, to help him with an attendance allowance form so that he could claim some government money to help care for his wife. It's a very flexible service. Here are just 3 quotes taken from the many emails and notes that arrive in the LionHeart office each week. 97% of people who contact us tell us that they're either very happy or happy with the service they receive. We love making a difference, and I think it's clear that from these quotes that we do make a difference. Just like to talk a little bit now about looking after yourself during this pandemic. I think for most of us, this is a difficult and unsettling and challenging time. But there are some things we can do to help us cope better with this situation. Sticking to a routine can help. Continuing to eat well and exercise, get some fresh air. Keeping to a routine of waking and sleeping times also helps, as will breaking up the day into zones for work and relaxation and so on. Try new things if you want to. We've all seen the social media posts out showcasing people who are filling their time with yoga and worthy books and learning 3 languages. Be kind to yourself. If that's not you, don't feel under pressure to do it. If you feel overwhelmed, you could try a mindfulness or a breathing exercise. There's one on the Managing Stress page on the LionHeart website, but there are plenty of others on YouTube and apps like Calm and Headspace. It's important to remember that you deserve the best information, so make sure you get that from reputable sources and follow their advice. If social media is making you anxious, it's okay to put it on mute for a while. Someone once told me that social media is like a museum that you curate for yourself. If you were curating an exhibition, you wouldn't want any old rubbish. You'd want the best art. You'd want the nicest pictures. You'd want things that made you feel good. Likewise, social media is like that. If you don't want to see something, hide it, unfollow the page. Don't feel drawn in. If you need to, just take the apps off your phone and lock yourself away. Make time to connect with people who matter. Video calls aren't perfect, but they will help. Reach out to people who might be alone, and you can help them as well as yourself. Distraction might help. Anything which demands your concentration. It could be creating a masterpiece or realizing that a second career as a concert pianist is just a pipe dream. Nature and sunlight are really great for our mental health, so try and get out each day. Or if you can't, just sit near an open window. Try and top up your natural vitamin D levels. And if it helps you to feel in control by making plans, then do make them. But make sure you reference reputable sources. And to keep a list of useful phone numbers handy. For many of us, working from home has either increased or is a new thing for us. And again, there are lots of things that we can do to make this easier. Try and create a working zone. This makes the separation between work and home easier. If you can't, then a few minutes each night putting things away will be worth it. And try and keep to regular working hours. It's really easy to start checking emails at night and early in the morning, but try and have some work and life balance. If you're not commuting anymore, you might find it helpful to create a routine to signify the start and end of the working day. Perhaps a walk around the block or before work, or a bit of yoga after work. It can be really tempting to snack at your desk, but your back and your eyes will thank you if you get up and move about and make time for some breaks. Connect with colleagues by picking up the phone or having a video call rather than playing email ping pong. You may find you get to know colleagues better during these odd times. I've certainly waved to lots of people's children and seen pictures of cats during these odd times. And on the subject of cats, you might find it helpful to shut the cat out of the room, as one of my colleagues found when her cat walked across her keyboard and hibernated her laptop in the middle of a conference call. Offices are often noisy and it can be really hard to work in silence if you're not used to it. You could try a talk-based radio station on a low volume in the background to give you that office hum feel. Or there's also many background sounds channels on YouTube. Perhaps you fancy listening to a roaring fire soundtrack or birdsong as you work. We all have water cooler moments at work as well. Try and create these with virtual team socials or lunch breaks, or create social channels on Teams, Slack or Yammer, whatever you use. It's important to set goals for your day and think about creating a structure for your day if that helps you. Perhaps zones of time or different activities at different times of day. If you find yourself easily distracted by the coffee maker or the fridge, or you're tackling a piece of work you're not keen on, try the Pomodoro technique. Set a timer for 25 minutes and work until the timer goes, and then change what you're doing. Dress for the day if that helps you get in the mindset of work. At the very least, dress for video conferences. During this pandemic, there's some help that you can access. We've already mentioned the really helpful Adair HR help desk, which is available on the via the SCSI website. You can also access, there's a page on the LionHeart website, which I've put the link there. These slides will be circulated afterwards. Or you can call the LionHeart helpline, which is +44 121 289 3300, or you can email us at info@lionheart.org.uk. The COVID-19 page of the LionHeart website has pulled together all of our support, so you just have one place to go on our website. I know that many of you have donated to us already, and we're really grateful for every penny, every euro of that. And we're aware that there are lots of fundraising events that happen across Ireland, and we love seeing the pictures and hearing about those. We are experiencing unprecedented demands at the moment, and we are bringing on stream extra resources to meet those demands. We are committed to being there for the RICS and SCSI communities. If you are able to support us, we will make sure that your generous gift goes to help your fellow surveyors. Even the cost of one takeaway coffee a month will make a real difference, and you can sign up for a direct debit there if you're able to. Remember that if we call you, if you call us, we'll never ask you whether you've supported us before. We're genuinely not interested. We just want to help you. So if you're not able to help and you've never helped, please don't be put off from calling us. We genuinely don't mind, and we will help. You'll get the same level of help. As I said before, we're not an insurance company. You don't need to have paid in to get any access. I hope that's been helpful. If you'd like to stay up to date with what LionHeart's doing, please follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn or Facebook, or take a look at our website. I think we may have some questions now. We've got one. What does an outplacement consultant do? So we use a range of outplacement consultants, and what they focus on is getting people back into the workplace. Quite often they would be, for large-scale redundancies, firms would bring them in to help people prepare CVs and perhaps brush up their LinkedIn knowledge and perhaps have a mock interview. And we use the same outplacement consultants, so they're available to you. Their services can cost something like £3,000 a go, and we would pick up that cost if it's something that you need. All of our helpline staff are trained coaches, so they can help with interviews, CVs, and LinkedIn. So we would put you through that process first, but we would then pass you on to refer you to one of our outplacements consultants. So that can be a really helpful service. Another question, is the coaching service able to assist members that are business owners in how to handle the non-HR side of employee management during this crisis? Our coaching service would help people with kind of making difficult decisions and working through what's best for them. I think that sort of thing would be best handled by the Adair helpline, the SCSI helpline. And I think there's a lot of resources available, and certainly in the UK, firms have been furloughing people, and there's a lot of chatter around now, particularly on LinkedIn, around how to do that in a compassionate way. So I think if you look, there'll be some support around the non-HR side of employee management. Yeah. Are there other ways people can help? Volunteering time. We are actually at the moment we don't use volunteers an awful lot, but we are developing a volunteering strategy which was going on before this crisis. So at the moment, there's not a lot of extra things that we need people to do, but certainly there will be in future. So do keep an eye on our website for that. I think that's all of the questions that I've seen.
Thanks, Juliet. It's Michelle. Unfortunately, we lost Barry there. His connection is gone.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation and for answering those questions. I think that's all the questions we have at the moment.
Okay. Please remember LionHeart. Please tell your partners about us, and because they might need us too. And do call us if you need us.
And this webinar is recorded if anybody would like a copy of it, and it will be uploaded to the CPD part of our website. Thank you.
Thank you.